that it is at 10:30, so I was kind of thinking that I'll go at around 10:20 or so. But
No.
so why he is sending too many emails? 3 emails I got from him.
I don't know. No idea.
What he has to do, I don't know.
He's from Third, so
well,
I'm not sure.
Anyway, I don't have time to go now, so I'll be on the Zoom.
Good.
Okay.
So me too.
Okay, let them know I'm here.
Okay, they should have you.
Okay, thank you.
I cannot hear the meeting. Can you hear them again?
Can you hear me?
I hear you. Can you hear the meeting?
Oh.
No, right?
Why?
I don't know. Let me see if I can do it. I don't know. Shoot. Can't hear him. Darn it.
Well, I can see you all, but I can hear you.
I can see, and I can hear you, but I can't hear them. Can't hear the meeting.
Call Erica.
Bunny's probably. Oh, gosh. I don't know what I could do. I'm on my phone. Good, there it is.
Here, go.
Erica, can you hear me?
He can't hear the meeting.
Erica?
Ronnie.
Erica, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good morning.
Better.
Good morning. Good morning.
Jump.
Okay.
Good morning.
The special open meeting of the Golden Rain Foundation of Laguna Woods Board of Directors is now in session. This meeting is called together for the specific purpose of reviewing the budget, the 2024 budget for GRF. I would like to make one change to the agenda and move the proposed review number 7 up to number 5 and move it all down. The purpose is so that we can get a full range of the comments that come from the presentation prior to the presentation. They come after the presentation, excuse me, so that the presentation is seen first, then we can make the comments, both relating to the presentation and any other comment you may wish to make, since this is an open board meeting also. So let me restate that. I see some puzzled faces there.
Objection. This open forum is not related to agenda. Open forum comment is not related to agenda.
Thank you. And I said that I would like to make that change. Okay? I would like to make that change, that the open forum be moved up to number 5 and change to open forum and commentary on the budget, and then move the budget to the number 5 item.
Yes, but we don't have.
Sorry. I will entertain you here. This is out of order, but I will entertain you here, up here, Mr. Andre, so that so everybody can hear you.
Okay, you want to hear me?
Yes, can you come up? You have an objection.
Okay, Mr. Robert's rule, this open forum is for any item that's not related to the agenda. Okay? Now, we have 3 minutes. We only have 3 minutes. Okay, be very careful about speaking. Don't speak anything. Just to the point. And
Okay,
also,
but
after review of proposed 2000, we can also have 3 minutes. Now, you put everything together after that, we only have 3 minutes. We lost another 3 minutes. Talk about the issues.
I see what you're saying. So what you're saying is, even if I move it, an individual may have 3 minutes on each type of item, a non-agenda item as well as an agenda item. All right? Is everybody okay? So to make it clear, again, thank you, Andre. To make it clear, I want to move item number 7 to item number 5, which means there's the open forum after the budget presentation, and each speaker may have 3 minutes, up to 3 minutes, on a non-budget item and a budget item. So they could have a total of 6 minutes but it has to be budget and non-budget.
3 minutes each.
Okay. So, can I hear a motion to that
I
point?
so move. I'll second it.
Moved and second. Any objections? So moved. With that, again, I want to thank you all for coming, and just remind everybody that this is the 7th meeting that we've had regarding the budget. These meetings have been, they started in March, and they will end up with the budget adoption, a budget adoption in September. So I thank you all for coming and participating. With that,
Jim, can I say something? I just want to make sure, for the sake of not being disrupted and everyone understand, that each speaker responsibility is when they come to the podium to say that the 3 minutes is for non-agenda or 3 minutes is for the agenda items.
Gotcha.
So in that case, it's pretty clear if they have only 3 minutes for non-agenda and that's it. But they have to identify which one they're going to speak about.
great. Thank you.
Because other than that, there's going to be some confusion and discussion.
Great. Thank you. Okay, with that, I'll turn it over to Assistant Director Jose Campos.
Thank you for the opportunity that we have today to go over the budget. So this is an exciting time. I know that, as Jim mentioned, this is about the 7th time that we meet together, but for a lot of people at home, it's going to be the first time that they hear it, so we'll be going over a lot of those items that we've already talked about. If we can go ahead and bring up the presentation, please. So again, just kind of hammering back on what Jim talked about, this whole process began in March. We wanted to begin with a true understanding of what our existing service levels were. To that end, we had meetings to where we described what's in the current year budget. We also had special meetings to review capital, which many of you were in attendance for. We've gone over a couple of different iterations as far as all the different operating items within the budget, and ultimately it's culminating in what we believe is a pretty complete budget. And then ultimately it's going to be going to approval at your September meetings. And it looks like we do have a couple of extra agendas here coming in. But at this moment, I just want to turn the time over to our CEO, Siobhan Foster, who can talk to us a little bit more as far as what's going on. Sorry, I did skip this slide here. Let me just talk to you. In addition to what we've already talked about, I do want to let you know that your staff has done an incredible job in controlling what we can control, but there are, of course, some items that we cannot control. Some items, for example, such as inflation. Inflation, as we know, has been running rampant, not only in our community, but really throughout the world, really. As well as utilities. As you know, utilities and the cost of utilities is skyrocketing. A lot of these are going to be contracts, for example, in trash, where we have a franchise agreement where we have no option as far as who our vendor is. So there are some of these contracts that we're already in, and some of them are pretty hefty. Nevertheless, we've done what we can to mitigate some of those, and again, we'll be talking about those in a second. Programming costs, so this is how much it costs to get the different programming channels that you have that get plumbed directly into your homes. Those are some of the costs that are continuing to increase. It's one of your biggest increases in GRF. Property insurance, and that's more related to the mutuals, but of course it does take a little bit of effect for GRF as well. And as well as your union and your non-union wage adjustments. As you know, ours is a service industry, and the majority of our expenditures do relate to wages. And in order to keep a good workforce going, there are those wage adjustments that are necessary. In addition to that, your union contract is expiring in November, and so it will have to be renegotiated. So there are some assumptions in here as well as some of that to put in different wage adjustments in there. So those are some of the outside forces that are affecting your budget, but there are a lot of things that we did do. There are a lot of things that we had some control over, and we have Siobhan Foster here who will tell you a little bit about the budget process and some of the items that we've been working on.
Thank you, Jose. As you know, the budget development process is a very comprehensive, iterative process. It started in January with the VMS strategic plan update. This is when the VMS board and representatives from GRF, 3rd, and the United boards met and affirmed 3-year goals, including to maintain financial stability and longevity of the village, working in cooperation with the boards, and facilitating operational excellence and sustainability. The participants set 6-month strategic objectives, including evaluate department's vacant positions and identify reductions in full-time employees to be included in the proposed 2024 budgets, and to complete a top-down review of staffing levels to streamline operations and reflect the results in the proposed 2024 budgets. Between February and April, department heads reviewed actual and budgeted staffing levels for 2018 to 2022, with executive management determining the vacant positions that can be eliminated and reasonable 2024 staffing levels based on efficiencies and process adjustments that have been implemented and inherent turnover in the current job market. Then in April, department directors inputted their line item budgets. In May, executive management reviewed those budgets and recommended changes. Subsequently, executive management conducted departmental budget reviews, and in June we presented the version 1 budget as a starting point. In these steps I outline above, the executive team reduced the proposed budget by more than $6 million. In July, version 2 of the budget and CIP, capital plan, was presented to the board. I want to show you on screen the 5-year funded staffing trend. Funding for 695.75 positions is included in the proposed budget. This is a reduction of 16 positions from the current year. This is a reasonable staffing level based on efficiencies and process adjustments, as well as the inherent turnover in the current job market. So this is where we started, and then we began meeting with the boards of directors, and this board particularly, to look at the GRF budget and capital plan. With that, I'll turn it back to Jose.
Thank you. So Siobhan talked a lot about what was done, and I got to tell you that really was, again, a collaborative and an iterative process. It's something that we went back to again and again, and we were challenging our department heads and asking, really, what can you do? What can you do to make this a little bit more reasonable? And so we really feel that we've cut as much as we possibly can. But that being said, let me bottom line you, I guess, is for lack of a better term here. What we're proposing for 2024 is an increase of $7.40 per manor per month. This is a 3.4% increase. And here on this next slide, we'll kind of talk about how that is derived and what that's composed of. This is a slide that you'll be seeing again and again throughout the presentation. This is what we're going to summarize as our business plan. And in it, we'll be talking about non-assessment revenue, that first line, how that's going to decrease the assessments by $6. Total expense, is going to increase by 874, and the net operating is just the math between those two. And here's where I will pause to let you know that operationally, from start to finish, as we're talking for GRF, this is a total net increase of $2.40 for your operations themselves. This represents a 1.1%. So in the face of all the adversity that we're facing, in the face of the inflation, in the face of everything, that your staff was able to come back at a 1.1% operational increase is pretty substantial. Again, we'll be talking about each of these categories individually, but I did want to pause there. And then the other significant item in your business plan is going to be your surplus recovery. In the current year, we're using a surplus recovery of $10, so that's about $1.2 million. We believe that for next year, we'll have enough funds in surplus to be able to give back $5. Again, we'll talk about some of this in more detail in just a second, but that is going to be the majority of your increase there. Included in your plan, included in that increase of $7 that we just talked about, is funding for your reserves. That's set to remain at $17 per man per month. And there is no contribution to the contingency. And again, we'll go over these and we'll show you how we came to that conclusion. So all in all, again, $7.40. We'll be going through these categories, and at the end of each of the categories, I'll pause for questions on that specific category. So beginning with the first, again, I want to really focus on this net operating. Operationally, GRF is going to increase by $2.40 or 1.1%. So just wanted to show you that compared to the prior version, for those of you following along at home here, forgive my extra zero there, but total expenses did decrease by 41 cents. So the comparison, the only difference between version 2 and version 3 is that this version actually decreases by 41 cents. And that has to do with a tax issue. And when I say tax, I'm talking about employee compensation taxes. We had found an error in that, so we're continuously looking at your budgets and making sure that we're accounting for everything. But we had an error in that, and so that led to a reduction. That's also slightly offset by an increase in utilities as we get more and more data. The majority of your utilities are going to be based off of usage, and on average, some of those utilities have changed a little bit. So anyway, the net result from both of these changes is a 41 cent decrease. Sorry, a 41 cent decrease. But again, let's move into each of these items individually. We'll begin with revenue, and I have a little pie chart up here to let you know that as far as GRF is concerned, revenue is primarily composed of broadband there in green and golf in blue. And between those two, that makes up 75% of your revenue. So again, we'll go each of the individual lines by lines, but I wanted to give you a visual representation there that broadband and golf are really what does it. But here they are in the order of your business plan that you have both online and distributed today. You'll notice that on each of these charts, for the next several charts, we provide you with 3 years worth of actuals. We provide you with last year's budget and the proposed budget for 2024. Every number that you see here is in thousands, but just for simplicity of not seeing so many numbers, we rounded them to the nearest thousand here. So we'll begin with that first line, that golf greens fee. Golf greens increased revenue by $70,000, and that's to reflect the ongoing high golf course usage that really began during COVID-19 pandemic. It's based on recent trends, and as you can see, we've been trending an increase in usage. I will say that 20 and 21 are obviously decreased a little bit because of the pandemic, but we do anticipate more revenue, which decreases your assessment by $70,000. Golf operations revenue, again, was also based on trends, and there's just a slight change. We predict $2,000 less revenue than in the current year, but pretty much no change there. Merchandise sales, we're anticipating $34,000 in more merchandise sold, and this has to do with increased fuel and oil that's being passed over to Agewell. Just so you know, they get their fuel and oil from us, and then we actually sell to them at cost, but we charge them an administrative fee. So that's the way that GRF makes money on it, but our accountants make us recognize it here on the revenue side, and we'll also see it in the expense side. Clubhouse rental and event fees increased revenue by $42,000, primarily due to more events being held, particularly at the Performing Arts Center. We're finally starting to return to some of those pre-pandemic numbers, which is nice to see. And additionally, we have, there's increased use of the Village Greens room rentals over at the golf course. Rentals remained unchanged, but just wanted to let you know that when we talk about rentals in GRF, we're talking about garden plots as well as some of the parking that, in addition to giving providing age well fuel, we also provide them a place to park and we charge them for it. So we rent them some parking spots across the way here. Broadband services, and this is the biggest factor as far as revenue is concerned. We are able to increase revenue here by $869,000, and this is due to negotiated terms for high-speed internet. So high-speed internet, we share that contract with the provider, and they provide us a certain percentage as far as what you get charged for your internet usage. And that revenue split has increased in GRF's favor, and that has accounted for the majority of this increase here. In addition, 2024 will be an election year, and during election years, we sell a lot of advertisement to all those, and so you tend to see spikes in even years as far as revenue is concerned. So we're anticipating a hotly contested election year, so that's going to compete for our election dollars. So at least we get that out of it. There's also an amount in here for miscellaneous revenue. It decreased by $46,000 due to decreased traffic violations, which are in line with the current year. In addition, the parking fee revenue was reduced as the amount of Saddleback emeritus classes have not quite returned to their pre-pandemic values. So you saw a little bit of a reduction there. Again, all in all, revenue is going to cause your assessment to decrease by $967,000, which is great. The other side of that, of course, is expenses. And after we're done with expenses, we'll take questions on all of operating. But expenses, again, I wanted to provide a pie chart to remind us all that ours is a service industry, and that compensation accounts for 59% of it, as you can see there. Again, we'll go through each of those lines. And we'll go through each of those lines so you can take a look here for yourself. Employee compensation, and again, this is the biggest part of your pie here. It increased by $43,000, and think about that, $43,000 against $20 million. So that's a 0.2% increase. And that's due to planned wage adjustments, as we were talking about, but it's also due to the decrease in positions that Siobhan was talking about. So Siobhan talked about meeting with each of the department heads, really thoroughly scrubbing each of those areas, making sure that they were working as operationally efficient as possible. That led to an overall community reduction of about 16 staff years. I will say that 2/3 of those, or about 10.7 staff years, come from GRF directly. So that's what you're going to see. The good news is that the mutuals will experience that on a lesser scale, as the majority of the employees that were, I shouldn't say the employees, the majority of the funding that was reduced came from GRF. So a slight increase there of $43,000, which we were very happy about. Additionally, compensation related expenses, so I'm talking about the benefits, those are projected to decrease by about $359,000, and that has to do with switching medical providers. Again, this is another example where your staff is trying to do whatever we can. We've gone through to a whole bunch of different providers, made all of our employees change out our medical providers so we can provide some savings to the community. At the same time, we're taking care of our employees and absolutely looking for your best interests as we do so. Materials and supplies are increasing by $246,000, and this is primarily due to an increase in horse feed and shavings as we're getting more and more horses to be boarded. We do have an offset in revenue as we're getting more horses to be boarded as well. In addition, the increases come from computer replacement materials needed throughout the community. So I'm talking about the laptops, the PCs, hardware, those kinds of things. Those are on a cycle, and we are planning on replacing some of those in 2024, so you see an increased cost there. The cost of merchandise sold increased by $26,000. This is that same gasoline being sold to Agewell that I was talking about before. We saw an increase in revenue. Here's the increase in offsetting expense. Community events increased by $22,000 due to the rising costs of catering. More catering results in a reduction in the amount of monthly dinners held. So you're seeing more expense there as that catering cost goes up and up. On this next slide, you're going to be seeing all the different utilities that we have, starting with electricity here. Electricity increase based on average consumption. So for all of your utilities, what we've done is we've taken a historical look, not at the cost, but at the actual usage. So for electricity, how many kilowatt hours did we use for water, how many gallons, those kinds of things. And we use an average, and then we take a look at the existing rate, and we also communicate with the California Utilities, CUP Commission, I think it is, and making sure that we're understanding what the projected rates are. And we use those to come up with a budget for the following year. So here you can see that electricity is increasing by $97,000, and that's due to a projected rate increase of 6.2%. So they are letting us know that the CUP is letting us know that they're anticipating a 6.2% increase in electricity costs, and that's why you see an increase there. Sewer increases have not yet been announced, so since they haven't been announced, we're using an assumption of 3% because that's typically what they increase. However, you see that there's not much of a change, and this is due to slightly less usage, and that results because of water. So water and sewer go together. Water decrease based on decreased consumption resulting from the implementation of the Master Irrigation Control Project. So I think you guys are all aware that there was an irrigation project that was set forth from landscape, and the project is expected to save $280,000 worth of water. Now, GRF's portion of that is $55,000, and $83,000 for United, and $142,000 for Third. But this decrease was, of course, partially offset by, even though we're consuming less water, the utilities are charging more for each of those gallons. So the all-in-all net result for water is a slight decrease in GRF, and again, we'll take, of course, what we can get. Trash, this decrease, but I really want to specify or emphasize again, what your staff is doing. So, for example, our trash, we have a franchise agreement where we participate in a franchise agreement with the city where we don't really get an option as far as what vendor we use. So our vendor that came in saw that we had been undercharged for a lot of years moving forward, or at least something that we couldn't get anywhere near those rates. Not undercharged, but the rates were lower than anything that was around. So when they went out to bid, all of the bids came back significantly higher. To that end, they met with all the constituents and shared a 5-year plan. The plan was that for GRF, the price increase would be 29%. So even though your price increase was 29%, staff took a good look and saw, hey, what is it that we can do to help with that? And they were using a certain kind of bin over at the yard called the 40-yard bin, and that's what they had been using. They took a look and say, hey, can we use something that's more efficient? They're using a compactor now instead, so we're getting less visits out there, and so we're having less and less trash. Not less trash, but they're coming out less frequently. The end result is that in spite of that 29% increase in price, we were still able to offer a budget reduction of $9,000. Again, staff's doing what we can to be able to do those things. Now, that news is not going to be quite as bright for the mutuals, as we don't really have an option as far as what kind of bins we use in the mutuals, but we'll talk about that on Wednesday and Thursday. Natural gas has increased based on average consumption, again, from 18 to 22. Increase in consumption, this fluctuates. Natural gas, the way it's built is they charge you not only for the commodity itself, but also for the transportation of it. And this is a bill that increases up and down 17% from month to month, depending on what it is. If you take a look at your actual bills, anyhow, this is trending up quite a bit. You see an increase there of $71,000 to be in line with what's been recently charged. Telephone has decreased based on change in telephone. We're going from a traditional landline to a web-based, and that results in some savings there for you. Fuel and oil has remained unchanged based on historical consumption. We also look out for the U.S. Energy Information Administration, the EIA, and they provide a cost, or what they think is going to be a cost estimate moving forward for 2024. Just to give you some scope, Our budget for 2024 is about $4.05 on average per gallon, and that's blended average between gas and diesel. It's obviously a lot less than you pay at the pump because we do buy it in bulk and we have our own pumping station here. Moving on to legal. Legal is staying about even. Again, we're using trends there. It's a slight increase of $2,000. Professional fees is a slight decrease of $70,000. And what's going on here is that in 2023, we had a one-time consultant for broadband network implementation. Since that was one time, we don't need it in 24, so that was removed. So you see the decrease there. Equipment rental is increased by $38,000 based on transitioning from owning our own fitness equipment to leasing that for cardio equipment. Specifically, we're talking about for Clubhouse 1. The plan for next year is to lease more of that in Clubhouse 1. So you see a slight increase there for equipment rental. Outside services have increased by $316,000 due to increased cloud computing platforms. So this is going to be some of the items that are going to be necessary for the ERP as that starts going. ERP. We're going through a whole change in our software, not only our accounting software, but really as an enterprise as a whole that's dealing with all of your information and everything that goes through. That is going to come, the majority of those implementations are going to be coming in 2024. So along with that, we need some cloud-based services that's going to make this increase. Repairs and maintenance have increased by $46,000 due to the correction in number of Microsoft Office licenses that we have. So we've taken a closer look as far as what kind of licensing we need. And we anticipate 2024 needing about $1,046,000. If you look at 2022, it was actually more than that. So we're trying to come down as much as we can here. Got a couple more slides here on expenses. Other operating expenses have increased by $99,000 due to increased training and education for employees at the various departments, such as training on the new Microsoft Office tools and also on that new ERP. So some more training, of course, is going to make us more efficient. So that's going to be necessary there. Income and property and sales taxes has a slight increase due to sales, resulting in increased state and local taxes. So I talked a little bit about some of our sales that are going to be going on. So a little bit more taxes paid in conjunction with that. Insurance increases by $285,000. And this is specific to auto, general liability, and excess liability programs. As you can see there, they've increased almost 10%, and that's kind of the nature of where insurance is and all the different losses experienced really throughout the country. And cable programming, and this is going to be the single biggest increase in your plan. This is, again, for the programming that you get within your units. These are contractual rate increases of up to 50% depending on some of the networks, and this is oftentimes something that we're in a consortium with. So all that programming that we're getting is continuing to increase as companies see that there are less and less cable subscribers. It seems that they're raising their rates. They're moving in an effort to go to streaming. So for 2024, we do anticipate that going up a fairly substantial amount of $727,000. And my last slide here on expenditures are uncollectible accounts. There's a slight increase there based on trends. And gain, loss, and sale we're anticipating slight sales here of minor items of $1,000. But cost collection here, this net allocation is the result of interdepartmental allocations. So basically, as GRF is experiencing less expenses, they're allocating less to the mutuals. So they're getting less. I'm sorry, I take that back. The cost allocations are as your expenditures are going up, they are allocating more to the mutuals. So you see that decreases the assessment by $197,000. So again, and I'll pause there to go over net operating, but everything that I've just described in all those programs that I just talked about resulted in a $2.40 increase, or 1.1% for operations. I'll pause here for any questions on operations before I move on. But if I've lulled you all to sleep, I'll be glad to move on. We'll keep going?
Yep, keep going.
All right.
I have questions. I'm sorry. I have questions.
All right.
Okay, so can I? Are we
Yeah.
gonna?
Okay, we'll, I'll tell you what we'll do is, we'll pause and have the commentary on operating, and then when you go for capital, we'll do the same thing for capital. Give everybody a chance to express themselves.
And if you may state your name and manor number, that would be great. Thank
Ellen
you.
Leonard, 422G. Okay. Let's see. Non-work center. I didn't know what a non-work center is. I think that's on the expenses. And do we have a rebate from the government? Oh, I don't think we're on the buses yet. Do we have a rebate from the government for the buses? And I'm confused, cable TV and broadband, are they the same thing? Because cable TV is 28 and broadband revenue is line 6, so I have some confusion there. ERP, your ERP, is that in a different section? The ERP expense, are we on a subscription or are we going to own it? And we sell our fuel to Age Well, but there is an administrative fee for somebody to, but Age Well gives us money, correct? They give us, $900 a month for parking and other money for, so I wanted to know where that was. And I'll stop there.
All right. I'm going to answer some of those. All right, so non-work center budgets for GRF, the majority of items are in work centers. I'm looking at page 6 of 33 on your agenda items. And it looks like there's $1,200 that aren't. I believe those are probably miscommunicated. I think that those probably should be in maintenance and construction, but it's $1,200 that's in non-work center. I can find out better answers for you on that. Buses, do we receive rebates for buses? No, we don't have any rebates for our buses that we own. We have historically, but that locks us into a lot of things that we have to do in order to obtain those. We haven't purchased buses in some time, so no, we don't have any. Cable TV, the question was, what's the difference between items number 28 and number 6? Now, I'll take a minute, and maybe I should have talked about this a little bit before. In your agendas, you have pages 5 and 6. These are your business plans. They are the exact same numbers from one side to the other. Page number 5 shows your business plan by account. This is traditionally the types of questions I'm asked. What happened in electricity, what happened in outside services, what happened in rentals. So we provide that by account, and then also we provide it by department on the right. So the question was, what's the difference between cable TV, which is an account number, and cable TV programming, I should say, and that's specific to the actual programming that comes into your unit. So think of the Foxes and the ESPN and those kinds of items. And versus the department that we call media and communications. And that just incorporates everything in addition to that. It's TV6, it's internet, and those kinds of things. So those are some of the questions there. Another question that we had was an ERP. Are we subscription-based or are we owning it? We will own the software itself, but there is a monthly, I think it's monthly, processing or administrative fee. We'll continue to license it from them, and that's pretty typical of Microsoft products. That's what you're seeing throughout. There's also a question about our relationship with AgeWell and what's going on with the parking. We charge them 2 different things. We charge them one for parking. So we charge them a set number, a set dollar amount per parking stall that they're out there. And we also charge them an administrative fee to deal with their fuel. So we sell them fuel at cost, And we collect, of course, the price of the fuel and then an administrative fee to deal with that. So that shows up in 2 different revenue locations. And those are my notes from there.
But you charge us for the administrative fee, right?
The administrative fee is charged to AgeWell, and that is revenue to GRF, so it decreases your assessment. Mr. Beckett?
Next, we have Mr. John Beckett, 364 Unit Q.
Thank you. Good morning. I served on this board, the GRF board, for 3 years. Every year, we were presented with a budget. And every year, I voted against it. The residents of this community pay more for employee compensation than we pay for all other expenses combined. Section 5215 of the Davis-Sterling Act declares, the association may not withhold or redact information concerning the compensation paid to employees. Compensation for individual employees shall be set forth by job classification or title, not by the employee's name, social security, or other personal information. When we were managed by Professional Community Management, they claimed that they didn't have to obey that law because PCM was a separate company. But VMS is not a separate company. VMS is a subsidiary, which is wholly owned by its members, United, Third, and GRF. The members of this community and the directors who represent us are entitled to information concerning the compensation paid to each of VMS's employees. Why does VMS refuse to disclose that information?
Just so, Mr. Beckett, just to correct the facts, VMS is a separate corporation, not a subsidiary. The corporate, it is, the members are the boards, the mutual boards, but they are members. VMS is governed and directed by its own board of directors, separate and distinct. It is a corporation. So when you talk about the rules of Davis Sterling applying to the agent, they don't directly apply. They apply, VMS applies as an agent, not as an employee of GRF. Does anybody have anything to add to that?
No, we agree. All right. Are there any other questions, or shall we move on to the next portion?
Okay. Hey, I got a question on table 15. On all the tables that you show us, you do addition and subtraction in the last column, and it looks okay, except in this one, it's backwards. So there's got to be something wrong with the header or something. Well, when I take 5.5 million and I go to 6.4 million, it is not a decrease, it is an increase of $869,000. Why is it in this table that the...
Sure. So this is, when it comes to revenue, this is where I always have a hard time because I get complaints one way or another. But what I tried to do anyway is we wanted to show you 3 years worth of actuals and 2 years worth of plan. And it looks like we missed it on this particular slide, but we want to know, what does that mean to your assessment? And so the more revenue you have, your assessment goes down.
Yeah, but then you got to fix the header, because somebody coming
Agreed.
in, picking up this thing and looking at this table and subtracting the numbers across is going to get the wrong idea.
Fair enough.
I mean, if you're going to have a table, it ought to be. So I shouldn't have to come to somebody and ask them, because I'm an engineer and I do remember my arithmetic.
Yeah, and I have to admit,
Agreed.
To me, it was a little confusing, but then I've come to understand that in certain circles, this is common. If it's, this presentation is a very common one in finance. Yeah. Well, it's talking about revenue, and it talks about increase and decrease at the top. So a decrease in revenue that's not to the revenue. That's a decrease to the per matter per month.
Yeah.
Okay. It is confusing, and maybe the heading can be changed.
We would change the
understand
heading
that-
to say assessment increase and
Yeah,
decrease.
I do understand. At first it threw me, but it is quite the convention in many financial circles. It is quite the convention. It is not.
Be that as it may, the header's got to be correct.
Agreed.
I wrestled with that one too, but I figured it out. It has to do with point of reference, okay? We're talking about a budget here, which is what we're paying out. Now we're into the category of revenue, which goes against the budget. So if there's an increase in revenue, then that kind of becomes a decrease in the budget. So it has to, as an engineer, you got to go with point of reference. We're talking about budget, then there's expenditures, then there's revenue, which is the total opposite against the budget. And that helped me to understand that the headers are fine.
And I think it's been that way since we've actually been making presentations, which is, what, 40, 50 years, 60 years? So, anyway.
And are we ready to? We want to make sure that they can hear you on
Yes,
TV and on
okay.
Zoom.
Community events. The expense on community events, I wanted to know caterers. You were talking about caterers. I know majority of the events, there's a charge, like a Mother's Day event or something like that. So that was my question. And also, the fitness center, is that?
Sorry, can I have you repeat the question? I didn't understand.
Community events.
Uh-huh.
They're caterers. You said that most of it is because caterers.
Went up.
Caterers for what? What events? I thought
Got
the
it.
caterers were paid for, like if it's a Mother's Day, or are these events for administration? I'm confused. And also, the gym, the leases on the gym equipment, I think it's $155 per bicycle. Am I correct for the spin bikes?
The spin bikes we own.
You own? Because there was in a budget in the last meeting, and we're going to lease more. But that's not true?
Correct.
It's not true, then that's incorrect? Okay.
And I just want to, in a point of order, and thank you, just a point of order, I don't think, in the interest of time, I don't think we can have this iterative conversation. So once you're up on the particular item or subject, the budget, then that's, you have your statement and say, and that's done. The next would be something not related to the budget. All right, so in the interest of getting everybody up to have their commentary.
So I just talked about that community events.
Okay, yeah, finish that.
The community events, we're going to have both more events themselves, particularly at the Performing Arts Center, and
Yeah, I put in the card already.
Answering the question. Wait your turn. He's answering the question as soon as you finish with your turn.
Okay.
thank you. Again, for community events, we anticipate having more events themselves as we're getting back to pre-pandemic levels, so that's good. And then in addition to that, there is some catering that is costing a little bit more, and yes, that is for the Mother's Day events, for the different events that we do. And I do realize that we collect revenue for that, but again, for accounting-wise, we collect the revenue up in the revenue portion, and this is just the single expense line that we're taking a look at. I also have those watching, some of the analysts watching, frantically letting me know that $1,200 for the non-work center that we're talking about has to do with some of the damage by worker claims that are done. So as our landscapers are going out, if there's a rock that they kick up and break a window or something like that, it's just a budget that we have to pay for some of those types of liability events. $1,200 is what we have budgeted. Anyhow.
And next we have Mr. Andre Torn, manor number 188, Unit B.
Okay, first, thank you very much. Finally got to pick long to talk. Sorry, I didn't realize that we are back and forth now. I thought usually it's at the end that we'll respond, but no, that's fine with me. As long as I understand the rule, that's fine with me. Okay, this question is related to the topics here, agenda item here. GRF is supposed to be our trust, okay? But I heard space utilization report result is unfavorable to GRF, the recommendation to this project. And so it was hidden from us. It's not published. Where can I find this report? Okay, if the GRF is hiding this report from us, then I'm sorry that GRF is not trustworthy. Okay, and this is also what one voice really means. Okay, if the board decided we're going to do something that's hidden from the members, nobody else, no other board member is allowed to talk about it and say, wait a minute, this is not legal. Okay, so the one voice is abused by some board members. Okay, they're trying to shut down the voice of illegal procedures. Okay, and I also want to talk about you are unwilling to consider cutting waste. We're more than happy to approve everything that VMS asks you, money you ask for. I want to let you know that we are not your ATM. Okay, you only spend money on the necessary things, must-haves. You don't spend money on the unnecessary things, not have. And you only spend money on the interest of the board, your members. Okay, good example would be the stop sign lighting. That's totally unnecessary. Do we really have to have that? What's the benefit of that? Okay, do we have a study of what's the benefit on that? Okay, so also building E, does that benefit us members? If you can build it up better and making more space for the members, maybe we can consider. But if you're not benefiting us at all, then why do we have to have it? Let's get the outside VMS do the job so they can have their own utility, they can have their own buildings. Okay, don't use our money for this benefit. And you said very clearly, Chair, it's not our corporation. We don't have obligation to them. Okay? Now, going back to the budget. Okay, on page 3, external forces affecting budget. Inflation, that's increased our budget. Utilities, that's increased our budget. Programming costs, that's increased our budget. Property insurance, that's increased our budget.
And that's the timer there.
No, he has another 3 minutes to complete. Yeah.
Thank you. And also, this is board's responsibility, not VMS CFO's responsibility to speak that.
Mr. Torg.
Okay. The union, non-union wage adjustment, that's increased. Okay, we have a certain increase. There is no waste cut. Nobody's looking at what kind of how to cut waste. VMS doesn't know how to cut waste. VMS only knows how to increase the expense. Everything they want to do is increase our expense. So my question is, do we have a quality improvement program anywhere that VMS is talking about reducing the cost? Are we interested in doing that, or just say quality is not our problem? We don't want to increase quality. We don't want to reduce cost. We just want to do as is. If it's what we're doing right now is wasting our money, we're going to just continue doing it. Okay, this is what board's responsibility to look at it and say, do we have a quality improvement program to ensure that we will? And by the way, as a board member on other corporations, okay, I did strategic plan. Every year, quality improvement is on the list, and nowhere have we found that quality improvement here at all. Okay, and next, Okay. Page 10. Surplus deficit recovery, $10 for 2023, $5 for 2024. Okay. I don't know how this number come from. Okay. Has anybody asked them how do they derive these numbers? How do they justify these numbers? That is board members' responsibility. There should be a note in there saying, this is how we calculate number from this revenue and expense statement from all these expenses, and this is what comes up, okay? Okay, I know some people were laughing at us and said, why do we have to worry about it? No, this is your board members' responsibility. Okay, if you don't want to do that, okay, just resign and let somebody else get on the board and do it. Okay, it's your job to watch the numbers and say, where does that $5 million? I calculated $15. Do you want me to explain to you? Or do you want me to talk to, do you trust me or do you only trust BMS? Okay, that is a big question we have. $15, and also there's $10 of the savings that we're supposed to get it. And also, by the way, the surplus is not BMS' job to say, I want to put it here, I want to put it there. Surplus is your job. This is your money. It's actually our money. You are the representative to show us, to share with us where the money should be spent. You make the decision, not BMS make the decision. It is our money, make it clear. Okay? And you guys need to look into that for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before, let me just address a couple of things before. The surplus recovery, that's calculated based on the actuals. That surplus is then part of the budget the next year or the following year, depending on when the specific amount has been established. Usually we don't get an audit until, we don't finish the audit until 4 months after the close of the year, but we do have our own financials, so we're able to generate some estimate of what that surplus will be. So this is a continuing thing. Over the last 3 years, there's been $23 per man per month generated, or $3.5 million in surplus that was taken back to the residents as a result of the surpluses. All right, and that's a continuing operation and continuing analysis. The other thing you mentioned that was
Quality.
no, this is not back and forth.
Quality and coverage.
Yeah, that's any other responses?
Sure, I'll touch on the comment with regards to the strategic objectives and continuing looking for improvements over time, right? So I will point out that, as you bring it up, that it's never discussed. On a monthly basis, whenever Siobhan Foster, our CEO, shares during her monthly board presentation, she regularly describes the improvements that are being made. And just earlier, no less than a couple hours ago, she began the presentation on slide 5 that we have strategic objectives that were set forth for the corporation. And as a result of those strategic objectives, we went through all of our departments, each of the department heads, and did an analysis of all the existing positions. And forgive me for repeating what was already said earlier, but to drive the point home, we went and looked at all the positions that we were having difficulties filling. And if we went through, say, the course of 6 months to a year with the inability to fill those positions, yet the jobs got done, we went ahead and eliminated the funding. Therefore, as a result of it, we were able to bring the expenses down, right? More or less 60 to 70% of the expenses that come to this organization are compensation, but you're a service organization. Excuse me, VMS is a service organization. Therefore, you would anticipate that most of your expenses are going to come from employee compensation. So the mere fact that we've driven down our headcount year over year consistently, and you can see that once again in the flow chart or the chart that was presented earlier on, VMS is doing their best to work on behalf of the organization. Thank you.
May I ask a question that?
No, it's Mr. Tork. I'm sorry, we're gonna have to move on. Who's next? Who's next?
Please, Andre.
That gentleman has had hand up for a long time. I don't know your name. My hair like me?
I guess there's a response also from the board, so. Did- Oh, is that his hand up? Okay.
Can you fill out a card?
So, may you state your name and number, and manner number,
Harold
please?
Midense, 421B, like boy. Thanks for letting me know that we're not self-managed. VMS is supposed to be self-managed. In other words, I thought they were our employees. Now that they're independent corporation, I understand why the situation is what it is. I got two things that I want to point out. It's very simple. I am not an engineer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a dumb resident. Two things bother me. I come to these meetings and I hear VMS saying all the money that we're saving. And when I go home, again, I'm going to get hit with $27 a month more every year than we did the year before. So in my mind, does it make any sense when I'm saving $600 million here, $650,000 here, $200,000, and we still, everything goes up? I understand inflation. That's understood. Realize, when I moved here was PCM. You guys had a problem with PCM, you guys got rid of PCM, and the promise was, if I remember correctly, we're gonna be self-managed for less money, better service. I gotta tell you something, we don't have, we pay more money and we get less services than we did before. I don't wanna list all of them because I will spend more than 3 minutes. One thing that I wanna ask sincerely, and I'm gonna go to all the board meetings tomorrow on Wednesday. I would like to see GRF united, and third, to request a forensic audit to be paid by the boards so we have a peace of mind that the money that we're seeing is not wasted. In my mind, and again, I'm a dumb resident, we're wasting a lot of money. And I would like to see where the money went. Thank you.
Sir, I'm sorry, what's your name? I didn't understand.
Harold Midense, Midence.
Oh, I know who you are.
Yes, you know who I am. So do I.
Yeah. Can I say something?
Jim, you mentioned deficit recovery. Historically, how far back does that go?
You mean in terms of the surplus?
In terms of a line item? Because I
terms of-
never saw it before in the past.
Okay. 20, 21, 22.
Okay, so it did not go back to 18, 17? And,
No, it also goes back there when, I believe if you get a chance, I think when they cut over from PCM, there was also a savings, a substantial savings at that time. That was also part of a surplus recovery. So yeah, it's there. I mean, all of it's, I think it's available in the Green Book if you go all the way back to that. In fact, before I joined the board, because I'm one of those people that like to understand the financial part of it, I went back and I was able to research all the way back to, I think, 2015.
And we have much more than that.
And beyond that, if I wanted to. I just was interested in 2015 and the cutover. So it's there. It's there. It's all there.
okay, well, my comment was it is such a confusing concept, and the $10 and $5 are very much rounded up numbers just plunked in there. If there's some way we can do away with that in future accounting would be.
And we do have a couple of slides that will talk a little bit more about that coming up.
Okay.
In just a second.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to look at Table 9 when it says GRF assessment history. Starting from 2015 down to 2024, if you look at the span of the increase, it's $12. That means 5.5% over 8 years. From 8 years ago to today, the increase only 5.5%. Remember, the assessment are two parts. One is the mutual and one is GRF. When the gentleman said, I paid $27 or $30 extra, you have to look at the mutual side of it, see how much is there and how much coming from the GRF. This year, GRF saying $7.4, $7.40 increase per manor per month. we have about 12,500 manners. And that translates to what? $91,000? Multiply 7.4 by 12,500, that's about $91,000.
That's per
Correct?
month. That's
So
per month.
we're increasing. No, it's a little bit more. Okay, how much is it? I don't have a calculator here.
It's closer to 1.2 million, I believe it is.
Yeah.
However, remember that the part of it is the reduction of the surplus recovery.
That's where I was
Yeah,
going.
from an operating perspective, it only went up to.
I missed 1 0.
Yeah, it only went up to 41
My
cents,
calculator didn't work well.
And
Okay. But the point that I'm making, or I want to also think about with the BMS, on slide 17, going back to slide 8, we reducing the number of staff by about 16 and a half FTEs. That's great. One of the points that I want to ask is, out of the 695 for 2024, how many of them is still going to be open position that we haven't filled? Because we have a lot of open position. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do we know how many open position we're going to have out of the 695?
So I will say that when we talk about these positions, they are unfunded positions, meaning we're still actively recruiting for them. However, we understand that it takes some time to actually fill those positions.
Because what's going to happen during the 2024, that what happened 2023 and 2024, we are not going to be able to fully staff, because I haven't seen that being fully staffed for the last 4 or 5 years. We always had surpluses. And that's what the question going to come out, that you have so much money in your budget, and now those money is available and you have to do something with it. That comes to the better planning on the side of the staffing, that what really we can get and hire to do the job that we need to do for the community. I mean, it's going to be very naive from us to ask for more work to be done with less people at all time. There are certain things that need to be done in this community, and it takes staff to do it, and it takes labor. But there are parts that, if we can cut about 16 and a half, my question is, how many more in there is available that we might not, through 2024, we might come up with a surplus? That means we're going to have more money available as we go through the budget, as happened the last 3-4 years. For that, what can we do a better planning on that in order to improve the bottom line and reduce the $7.4 per man per month on the GRF side, and come up with a better number? Because the majority of our cost is employment and compensation. That's about 65-70% of our cost. That's the only place that we can do a better job of managing the staffing and compensation to have impact. Yet we have to, that there is a trade-off. We cannot drop services and do the cost. And that's the job of our CEO, which is a pretty hefty and important job, to balance that, provide services at very, I call it reasonable cost, not low cost. Low cost is not the answer. The reasonable cost is the answer. What is the right thing to do? Balancing the staff and services. This community needs services. Everyone, all the members need those services. We cannot cut that. We have to improve that. Yet, we're talking about doing it with less labor. The labor costs went up. We all know that. I mean, even, McDonald's hired $20 an hour labor right now. 5 years ago, it was $10, $8. That's up. So it is a very delicate balancing between the services that everyone needs and the staffing that need to do the job. Cutting 16 and a half FTE, that's great, but can we do anything better than that? And that's, what I'm looking at the numbers. Maybe there are something there that we can do. Other costs that is not under our control. I mean, the electricity, the water, the cost of those comes from outside. We can do the saving here, but we cannot control the rates.
Thank
the
you.
rates come from outside.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a quick comment on
No,
this,
excuse me,
same thing.
Mr. Torre. Mr. Torre.
The same thing that...
For this section, you've used, for this, sir, please. For this section, you've used your 6 minutes. Okay?
All right.
For this section, you're done. You'll have to wait till the capital section to come up and comment. You may come in and comment on anything you want at that point.
Okay.
But we've gotta, yeah.
The outside service is supplement of employee compensation.
Yeah.
Okay. Count them together, you'll find out extra is
Thank you.
$360,000.
Okay, we have,
Director Zara Asghari.
okay, 3 minutes.
May I talk?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, I was sitting and watching this presentation. I want to thank VMS recently to taking this great action going through the deducting those full-time staff that is not budgeted or necessary to be in the budget. However, my question is, one director said, please understand that GRF only charge $7 for and the rest is on the mutual, and residents must know. I want to bring attention to the residents that hearing me, that GRF is the only one that can get and charge people. Mutual is not charging people. For example, GRF receive $7,500 for every sales and transfer from the previous owner to the new owner. GRF received $7,500. Although one of those units belong to mutual, United or Third, United and Third doesn't get any money out of that. That's one option. And all of the clubs and rental and horseback riding and all these money GRF charging. So these charges make this that please understand is not the way that a director said go to your mutual and ask them why they goes up. Number two that I want to bring attention is the GRF board. I have been in 3 years in many meetings in GRF, and GRF board must be a little bit pushing that fiduciary duty and asking for some question regarding to VMS with all the trust that they have, but verify their jobs. Recently in mobility, I presented that one trip. That means if one person goes from get a ride from Clubhouse goes to Clubhouse 1, just one ride, one trip, one way is cost $18.76. Is this reasonable? Is this reasonable? And why you, Jim, as treasurer, never calculate this one and never pay attention to this one? So this stuff, we are not saying, please understand, transportation is important. I agree with director says we don't want to cut back services. We want to is there a way that make it more reasonable? And that means if I go to the Clubhouse 1 and back home, that cost for the shoulder of the residents more than $35. So these kind of things bring attention that the money is not properly is used by GRF. GRF.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you so much.
we'll allow her another 30 seconds, but your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you.
At this time, I didn't see the time because
Yeah.
I am on Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Have any other comments?
Since
let me
the director mentioned what I said, I just want to make sure that we all understand. What I said is absolutely correct. There are two parts to the assessment. One part is GRF, one part is the mutuals. GRF part assessment increase for 2024, saying $7.04 increase for the GRF side of the assessment. Any other increase come from the mutual side because they have their own budget also that they manage. And that's, if they want to do zero, they do zero. If they want to do $5, do $5. They want to do $20, they do $20. But let's not mix things up. Let's understand, these are only GRF which relate to the facilities, not the housing. So that's the difference between the two. So all of the transfer fee and all of that, yeah, that's correct. The GRF collect transfer fee because we have to manage the facilities, and if those fees goes to managing those facility, repair, maintenance, etc. Thank you.
And I just want to make a comment on the bus system was mentioned again. And I know we wrestled with that proposal from Agewell for over a year. We took it to the community. It turns out that the bus system is a lot more valuable to our residents than it appears to be in terms of what it does for those who absolutely need it, as well as for those who actually come here and say to themselves, if not some other people, what do I do when I can't drive anymore? It's one of those things in the back of your head that, I can still get around. Why? They have a bus system. So, yeah, cost is a factor, and I know the director is constantly looking at ways to reduce the cost of it, but it is a service. It's a service that we actually expect here. So I understand the need to reduce cost, and we do that. I think we've done a great job. I think the VMS has done a great job of reducing the costs, continuing to do so. But it's not going to come out of just beating it down. It's going to come out of technology advances and process changes. And that's what we're constantly doing. So I just want to make the bus system is something we took it to the community because it was so sensitive. Thank you.
I would just like to make a comment. I'm Georgiana Willis, 858D. And I agree. I think the bus transportation is important. But I know if I needed a ride somewhere, if I weren't driving, I think I would rather have a setup where I can call OC Access and have them pick me up at my door, et cetera. And there's no charge, I think. And so if anybody was interested in that, they might be able to do it through our social services, because I think where that's signed up for is in Santa Ana. But we might be able to offer that because it would be a lot more convenient for people, and it's free. And also,
we actually do.
Yeah, and
we
so
do. As part of the service.
Yeah, but also
what we would call bus, we
right,
actually do.
Right,
so
but the whole thing too.
I just don't want to continue this because I think you've used your time, haven't you?
Okay, well, it's just I've seen a lot of empty buses,
Yeah.
so I think there's a more efficient one.
Can I put in something really quick?
Okay.
Please. Can I do something really quick? Is it Georgiana or Georgina? Georgiana, I'm sorry. I just wanted to point out, Georgiana, that's a good idea. And it'd be great to have the county coming in, but keep in mind, we're already building back to pre-COVID. We're looking at like 7,000 trips per month. And now even if you cut those in half, because of round trips or whatever, or however you want to do it, that's still 3,500 trips per month. So it's a good idea, but I just don't know if we could get that many buses in the community. And you don't know that, but if you come to one of our transportation meetings, you'll get a report. Okay.
Are there any other comments, questions?
All right, let's go back to the presentation if we may. On slide 22, please. All right, so this is, again, getting back to our business plan. So we've talked about net operating. Net operating resulted in an increase of $2.40. Again, that was 1.1%. And the next section here is surplus deficit recovery. And we'll come back to this under the contingency fund, but I did want to let you know that in 2023, we anticipated being able to return about $1.5 million or $10 per manor per month. And in 2024, we do anticipate that there is going to be a surplus available as well. Again, we'll show you the calculations here when we talk about the contingency fund, but it's going to be a little bit less so, about $764,000.
I'm sorry, did you say on the reserve you'll be able to?
Under the contingency fund.
No, you mentioned about returning $1 million or something?
Sorry. So in 2023, we had operating surplus available of about $1.5 million.
Oh, in operating surplus. Okay.
Operating surplus.
I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the reserve at that time. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, we're still talking about operating surplus here. And in 2024, we anticipate having operating surplus of about $5 per manor per month, or $760,000. So we're still returning some of that operating surplus. It's just not as much as we did in 2023, and that's why it is an increase of $5 per manor per month. When we get to the contingency fund, we'll show you some of those calculations and what impact that has on the contingency fund. So I'll ask you to be patient with me for just another minute while I first talk about the reserves. For reserves, the anticipated contribution is currently $17, and we project it to continue to be $17 per manor per month for the foreseeable future, really for the next 5 years. Here is a chart wherein we interlay a couple of different items here. So we have gone out and gotten a reserve study done. And in the reserve study, they kind of let us know how much they're anticipating us to spend on different items that you see here. And it lets us know how much money they're suggesting that we take on as a contribution. Now, for the reserves, GRF contributes in two different ways. One is part of your monthly contributions at $17 per manor per month, and this, of course, is something that all members of GRF contribute into at a rate of $17 per manor per month. And the other is a transfer fee, or about $7,500, exactly $7,500 for qualifying transfers as people come in and take ownership into GRF. So based on our projections here, we anticipate that for the foreseeable future here, for the next 5 years, that both of those rates, $17 per manor per month and the transfer fee of $7,500, would be unchanged. And the total here is going to result in that last column, that percent funded. This is a percentage that is disclosed to all your potential home buyers as far as how well it's a representation of how strongly you are reserved. In other words, how much money you have ready to go to take care of those items for which you have responsibility for over the next 30 years. So you can see here that we have a combined of 63% funding. Now, I'm about to turn you to a couple of different slides that say something a little bit differently, and that would be because instead of doing one reserve study, we actually did two, one for equipment, one for facilities, and so I'll show those to you. But this is the summation of everything here. And as a whole, GRF is 63% funded. On this next slide here, you see the full 30 years as far as where your starting balances are. We project your starting balances to be about $35 million when it comes to reserves. And again, we anticipate you being about 63% funded. And you can see for the next 30 years, that if we continue at the pace that we would still remain very well funded for the majority, or not the majority, for all 30 years. This average percent funded is an indication, or at least that's what that's what's accepted as an indication of how strong or how likely you are to have a special assessment. In general, it's considered that if you're less than 30% funded, that you stand at some risk to have a special assessment in the future, and that's of course a bad word around here. We've never had one, and that's the way we intend to keep it. So your GRF being at 63% funded is very strong. And again, this percent funding is the same measurement that's used in a homeowners association of 4 units or homeowners association like yours of 12,000 or more units. So being as strong as you are is very good. Again, 63% funded is what we're looking at. Here you see the actual reserves, and this particular slide here, you'll see the equipment fund. And I see that percent funded is a little low at 20%, and that's because we have the projected starting reserve balance at $3 million. I will let you know in the facilities fund, it's at 31 million. So it's just a matter of where we're going to represent the money. Is there money under equipment or the money under facilities? Point being, we report to you as a whole. So that first line is a little bit more indicative. But again, we'll just kind of thumb through these and let you know that over the next 30 years, this is what the equipment fund looks like. Again, it'll be better once we move money from the facilities to the equipment. And you can continue to see here, this is what the facilities fund looks like, again, starting at $31 million. So this one's showing at 80% funded. Again, combined, you're a total of 63, as well as what you can see there moving forward. All that was in an effort to say that, hey, based off of all the reserves that we've talked about, we continue to believe that $17 per matter per month is an appropriate amount for you to assess. That'll continue to, sorry, Eric, if we can have you bring it back to this total on number 25. Here is the combined between both of those. And it's just better for us to do it on a combined basis. But you can see there that you'll have ample funds available for the next 30 years as we continue to reserve the way we are at $17 per matter per month. I want to next go to the contingency fund on slide number 30. And for the contingency fund, there is no contribution currently in 2023, and we also believe that that's adequate for 2024, and let me show you why. So to understand the contingency fund, I want to just take you back a little bit in history and to give you an idea of where these balances have been on your contingency fund. The contingency fund, by the way, is a nice-to-have fund. It's not required by David Sterling. This is a savings account, if you will. Funds available to you for any unforeseen events. And you can see that in 2017 through 2020, we had anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million. In 2021, that got built up to $2 million. And by the time 2022 ended, we were at $3.8 million. So just wanted to give you some history as far as where we've been. So where are we going in the future? So here on slide 32, you can see the projected balances for the contingency fund. As of the end of June, midway through the year, we were just over $4 million, $4,013,000. Again, there are no contributions to this fund, so we don't anticipate getting any more income, so that's why you see the contributions there at zero. We are anticipating getting a little bit of interest between here and the end of the year, about $50,000. We also are going to fund an operating deficit from 2022 of $439,000. That funding comes from the contingency fund, and a little bit about that deficit. Again, in 2022, we're anticipating running unfavorable, but we did better than we expected, if you will. $439,000 is the deficit. We were anticipating ending at about $1.2 million unfavorable. So we did better than expected, and that's going to result in some favorable balances here, as you can see on the next line. Current remaining encumbrance, you have appropriated $20,000 to move benches over as part of your contingency fund, so that's the expense here. We're also adding this contingency for other expenses, meaning on average, the contingency fund spends about a little bit over $200,000, so we've added that there. Assuming all that comes to fruition, then we anticipate ending the year at $3.3 million. And why is that significant? Again, from the last slide, you were able to see that on average, those funds were anywhere from $500,000 to about 3.8. But in 2024, if we continue there, even if we have no contributions, even if we have a small interest income of about $30,000, we do anticipate being able to transfer for the 2024 operating expense. So this is the $5 per man or per month that we were talking about. We're anticipated to transfer $764,000. We also, on average, spend about $225,000 on regular expenditures out of the contingency fund. So even after all those things come to pass, we anticipate ending at $2.4 million. So that's how we were able to come up with that $5 per man or per month, is that planned 2024 operating transfer right there. We wanted to end this, to have this fund end at about $2.5 million to be available for any future years' needs. So that's how we came to that $5 per man or per month. So again, this is your business plan in its entirety. Again, we talked about the net operating, that $2.40, that represented 1.1%. We talked about how we came to that $5 conclusion as far as operating surplus is concerned. So that resulted in a $5 increase per man or per month for a grand total of $7.40, or 3.1% compared to 2023. And in addition to that, for in September, at your September board meeting, we would be bringing this to your consideration for approval for the budget. And in addition to that, we will also be bringing forth a capital plan. And we've talked about the capital plan at length before. There really are only two changes from the capital plan. I can go over those, or I can go over the whole capital plan. It's going to be really up to you.
Now, we've been over the capital plan twice now.
We have.
So why don't we go over the additional?
Okay.
The additions, and then we'll entertain any questions on the whole plan itself.
All right, Erica, would you bring up this slide?
Excuse me, can we talk about expenses? I don't know if that's capital plan or what.
The expenses are over now at this point.
Well, I didn't think we talked in detail about any of the expenses.
Yeah,
So-
we actually did. We went through
Well, can I
each
ask
line
Mr.
item.
Campos a question? Because there was in the plan, in the fitness plan, is fitness part of recreation? Because in one of your capital plans, and maybe this goes
Okay.
with, there is a lease cost of $155.
Just so you, just not to interrupt you, we're fitness, the capital plan is being discussed now.
Okay,
So
good.
I know there's a
All
difference
right.
between the operating.
There's a
and
learning
the
curve here.
capital. So we're going through the capital now. He's just going to go through the additional capital in detail. But then we can entertain the questions that you may have on all of the capital.
Okay, will that
Okay?
include the banquet table?
So if you will come back.
Yeah, I
when
will.
he's done.
Okay,
Okay?
got it. Thank you.
Yeah, just a second.
All right, so again, we have been through the capital plan proposals twice now, and so
Mr.
there are
Chair.
changes.
Can we just,
May I ask a
can we
question
continue?
before we get to the capital
No,
plan?
but sir, I'm going to ask you to take a seat so we can continue with this, and then you can come
Well,
up.
that's what
and
I
talk.
want. I want to continue with the first part here.
Okay,
Before we go
we're-
to the capital plan, I have a question.
You had a question?
Yes.
Okay.
I see on page 13 that it says here that
Director Hopkins, if I just may interrupt for a moment, if I could go based off of the calling cards, that way we don't have multiple people coming up, because we do have a few members that have been waiting to speak.
Okay. You have some waiting to speak?
Yes, I do, but I believe we're going to go forward with.
I have one more slide to go over. I have one more slide to go over, and then we can take comments. Is that all right?
Well, we're not, he's got something on the expenses, so I'm going to allow him to, I'm going to allow him to complete his statement. Can you do this in 1 minute?
I can do it in 30 seconds.
Okay, great.
I'm John Beck, it's 364 Q. On page 13 in this reserve study, first line says that reserve expenditures for 2024 will be approximately $23 million. And the planned expenditures for the next 2 years are about $10 million each year. Why are we spending twice as much money in 2024 than we're planning to spend in 2025 and 2026?
Thank you. So I will let you know that when we talk about the 2024 capital plan, we talk about specific items. So those are the specific items that we've gone over twice now. We do have 2 more items to add to those. But there is a difference between that and the 30-year plan. The 30-year plan that you're referencing is a funding plan. There are no specifics being approved for that. I will say that this is the first draft of the reserve plan. We did just recently get that last week, and we do need to get that updated. That number will come down. It will match what is being approved for 2024, and nevertheless, the funding is going to be accurate. The $17 is good.
Yeah. Just if I can, I was surprised also to see the $22.8 million in 2024. I think it's just a function of how you're calculating the reserve so that we can always be protected. I don't think there's an indication that we're going to have a capital plan expenditure of $22.8 million in 2024.
No.
It's used to calculate the reserve. Remember, the reserve is, the reason we have a reserve is to avoid risk. And so when we do the planning, there's projections and estimates that go way out into the 30 years. Nobody knows, nobody's got a crystal ball as to what the year 30 is going to look like, but we still have to project it. And so I think what we've done here is confused 2024 in the reserve planning with the actual capital expenditures that we expect to authorize. I would urge everybody, in fact, I think, Madam President, maybe we should send out that reserve article to everybody in terms of how you plan reserves and how we plan reserves. It's fairly straightforward, but it's not something that everybody's going to quite understand, I don't think. It's in the breeze. It's in the breeze. It's in the January, it's in the January, February edition of the Breeze. Pretty good article. But anyway, so that's how that works.
It's available on the website. On the website.
It's on the
All
website?
those back issues are available.
Okay, back issues are on the website. Thank you. But it's there.
So
you had some out that are waiting?
Did
you say you had some folks? Because we haven't gotten to the Capitol yet, all right? And so did you have some people that wanted to?
Quite a few.
Okay.
So I'm going to go in order as I receive them. So first we have Penny Khan. Penny Khan, Manor 3276. My turn? Yes.
Good morning. My name is Penny Carr, and my unit is 3276, Unit P as in Paul. I'm willing to wait. It's kind of a side question about the Building A and the space utilization. Would it be best if I waited until you talked about that? Or it's a specific question that I'm not sure you're going to cover.
Yeah, why don't you wait until he's actually explained it, and then come back up and... Why don't you wait until he's explained it, and then come back up and make your comments? Yeah, because I think a lot of folks will like to understand what's going on there.
Next, we have Mr. John Cornell, Manor number, sorry, I can't read that number. Mr. Cornell, if you can state your manor number, that would be great.
Okay,
Thank you.
my name is John Cornell, 2402, and Unit 3F. I'm also the president of the Camera Club, so I am here on two subjects. One is Clubhouse 7. The projector in that place is old, and we bring our own projector in. I don't see any reference in the budget for a new overhead projector in that room. Also, we would need probably blackout curtains, so the room would be more useful in the summer when the sun comes around in the afternoon. It is difficult to project any images in there. As far as the photo lab goes, we need a new overhead projector also, because doesn't work. It works when it wants to work. The photo lab needs a deep cleaning. The countertops, the rugs, and all of the tile in that place is, I don't want to say as old as I am, but it's old and I don't think it's ever been cleaned. Thank you.
Next, we have Latifa, manor number 831.
My name's Latifa Taramina, and I'm speaking on behalf of concerned citizens regarding the use of Clubhouse 1 and Clubhouse 7. I see that there's money being spent on lights and sound and things like that. But in Clubhouse 1, just as the gentleman who just spoke, there's no blackout curtains in there. So when you project, you can't see because the light's coming in. I'm a theater person. If you can't see, you can't hear. That's just how it works. So there's no point in putting a lot of money into a sound system if you don't have black lights, if you don't have the support that allows people to see. So I would suggest that perhaps you talk to people who maybe work for the Sigerstrom Center or the theater in Costa Mesa who are professional about lighting and sound before you make investments in it. And for God's sakes, don't go to the big companies because they get somebody else, they get the middle guy. And then so you're paying for them and the middle guy. Just go to the middle guy right away. That's my thought. Thank you.
Next up, we have Ms. Susan Model, manor number 3314, Unit A.
These previous speakers have kind of stolen my thunder, but I'm going to give my spiel anyway. So I am Suzanne Modell, 3314A. I'm the president of Concerned Citizens, a club that for decades has hosted speakers and presented documentaries in clubhouses 1 and 7. When I moved to Laguna Woods in 2014, I discovered that the quality of the AV equipment in these two venues was poor. It still is. Guest speakers can only be heard if a microphone is directly in front of their lips. This makes giving an effective PowerPoint presentation extremely difficult. Sometimes microphones simply stop working or start howling. Both rooms have good-sized screens, but they're underutilized because of a trade-off between size and clarity. With our ancient portable projectors, the larger the image, the fuzzier the representation. Consequently, I want to thank GRF in general and Debbie Dotson in particular for putting money in the 2024 business plan for updating the AV equipment in clubhouses 1 and 7. Still, there are a few points I'd like to raise. First, the budget recommends funds for a projector in Clubhouse 1, but it does not mention ceiling installation. Next, there is no allocation of any kind of projector in Clubhouse 7, yet ceiling projectors are recommended for dining rooms 1 and 2 in Clubhouse 3. Why not for Clubhouse 7? I hope this is an oversight. Or perhaps the omission is related to the protocol of charging Clubhouse 7 for improvements at the tennis center. For example, a charge of $18,500 for replacing cabanas at the tennis center is listed as, quote, for Clubhouse 7, unquote. As someone who uses both Clubhouse 7 and the tennis center, I can assure you that our need for a new projector far outweighs our need for replacing cabanas. Second, the funds allocated for AV equipment are relatively modest, far less money than is recommended to replace pool umbrellas or a par 3 shade cover. To reinforce the magnitude of our need, consider that page 18 of today's agenda states that the sound system in Clubhouse 1 is over 25 years old. I doubt the equipment in Clubhouse 7 is any younger. Therefore, if you are, at last, going to update these amenities, I urge you to buy equipment of the highest quality. It may have to last for 25 years. Thank you.
Erica.
Any more?
We have a couple more.
Yeah, we have a couple more calling cards. Next up, we have Mr. Dick Rader, manor number 270D.
Thank you. We heard financials on both the facility and the equipment fund. I'd like to ask a question, and depending on the answer, then I'd like to make a comment. Am I correct that we can move funds from the facility fund to cover any costs in the equipment fund?
Yes.
The answer is what?
Yes.
Yes, good. So therefore, my concern is that you look on page 13, which shows that the equipment reserve fund is in the red. And what we heard was that prospective buyers coming here are presented this information.
They presented the aggregate.
That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
64% to be specific.
Yeah, you're seeing the detail, and if you repeat it, we're going to have to get rid of you. But anyway.
And then we have one more. We have Mr. Andre Torn, manor number 188, Unit B.
Okay.
Andre Torn, I didn't get the answer from my past question, so I'm repeating these questions again. GRF is supposed to be our trust. That I heard the space utilization report result is unfavorable to what you're trying to recommend. So it's not shared with us, and I wonder why. Okay? Is GRF trustworthy to share transparency with us, or there's some secrecy there that hidden in a closed meeting that we will never hear? Okay, that's one question I have. All right? And also, apparently, I have a big time trouble with the so-called user requirements. We heard a lot of complaints about these users. They complain about, we have a problem here. You try to do this one, you try to do that, but you are not doing the right thing. Why don't we have user requirements? Where do we collect the user requirements? I would like to, board need to ask them, say, where are the user requirements? Okay, have you talked to the members yet about user requirements? That leads me to the next question. Okay, we have an ERP system implementation. I have 20 years ERP implementation experience. The very first thing we do is to interview people, what are your user requirements? Okay, have we collected user requirements yet? Collecting from the staff? Okay, from the board? No? Okay, we don't do that? Okay, so from the users, look at the problem with our recreation scheduling system. No user requirement. Once we go up, boom, nobody wants to use it. Because why? There was nobody was consulted, say, we need to do this one, we need to do that one, and they don't understand that. User requirement is totally lost. Okay. Now back to the presentation. Okay. This outside service, I always relate to employee compensation. Combine them together with outside services. Because when the staff get cut, we have to do the work. So what are we going to do? We hire outside services. Okay? And if you look at page 17, employee compensation is $43,000. Okay? Increase $43,000. And if you look at page 19, outside service is $316,000 difference, increase. Okay? It's apparently, we didn't save any staff cost. Okay, maybe we cut a few staff, but we increased the contractors. Okay, I understand sometimes there's a benefit to that, but we need analysis and telling us how much money have we saved. If we don't save any money, why are we putting on a new system, putting all these spend all these effort in there? Okay, money is what we are watching out, not just give them the money. Thank you very much.
Sure, I'm glad to speak to some of that. User requirements. We have a monthly CAC meeting that staff is very heavily involved with the users and has a lot of communication there back and forth. I will say that the part of the capital already does include the Clubhouse 7 projector. So that's hopefully will be some good news to a lot of listeners out there. There will be a Clubhouse 7 projector as part of capital. That's already included in here. Talking about the ERP, did we do any user requirements? Of course. Before we began doing the implementation, we went out and interviewed all of the users and figured out what they were doing and making sure that we were able to come up with how we can become most efficient. And there was, as far as employee compensation is concerned versus outside services. In this particular case, I see the argument of why you may want to combine them. They're completely unrelated in this particular case. We've talked about all the employee compensation, how there's really no change because of the employees that were decreased, offset by planned wage adjustments. But as far as outside services are concerned, it really has to do with the cloud services and the charges that we're going to be getting because we're moving to an ERP and we are going cloud-based. And as we move more and more to the cloud, that's more and more outside services. Not that we're moving employees and saying, hey, we're going to have less employees, but we're going to be doing more outside. This is just completely unrelated. It has to do with the technology of it all. Do we have any other comments?
Are there any more? No. Any more? Okay, can you go ahead with you were about to have a capital? Excuse me, ma'am. We're trying not to have this. We're trying to do it 3 minutes at a time, and once your 3 minutes is up, it's up. So, yeah, if we keep doing this, it won't work. It can't work for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give you one more shot at it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you. I wanted to talk about the tables in the clubhouses, the banquet tables. My name is Ellen Leonard, by the way. And we're replacing 220.
This is what I mean. We haven't completed the capital yet.
Okay.
So wait until he goes through, and then you can make your comment on it.
All right.
Okay? That's capital expenditures. Thank you.
All right, so in the interest...
Gutierrez?
Is there another packet to be handed out? We don't have it.
No, I'm not going to be going over it. No, we're just going to be taking a look at one slide from that particular one. There's slide 2, please. So, again, the capital plan that is included in your agenda has been reviewed a couple of different times. It is pages 27 and 28 of your agenda. And it has been reviewed a couple of times already. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to go over the changes from the last time that we take a look at it. And here you can see that one of the items that we had not yet talked about was a Clubhouse 1 renovation. And Clubhouse 1 renovation, to give you an idea of funding, of $2 million is recommended to add to the already existing $1,250,000 budget that's in there. So in 2022, we had gone through and we had appropriated $1,250,000 for Clubhouse 1 renovation. The board is going to be reviewing all the findings of the programmatic study that was conducted there for the renovation and will determine the direction of what's going to happen for Clubhouse 1. However, because there's going to be some structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and safety aspects, it may need to be further renovated. So that's why we wanted to get the funding in here. Again, we're not approving any specific work here. The idea of this appropriation is to have the funding in place to react to what comes available as we go through all of those studies. So again, $1,250,000 is already appropriated. It was appropriated for 2022. We're going to be doing more and more studies and finding out specifically what needs to be done. No action will be taken until the specifics come before the boards, and they're able to do that. But in order to make any significant improvements, there's going to be funding that's going to be needed. So that's why we recommend to put in this $2 million appropriation as part of that plan. Similarly, and I know this is a very big hot button topic here, building E, so I will tread lightly as I can, other than to say space utilization or something resulting from not being able to use building E will likely need to be done. I know that there are a couple of different options on the table. Don't know what those options are going to be, which of those options are going to be selected, but nevertheless, we think it's an important thing to have the funding in place to determine what actions, or to be able to have funding for whatever actions you may take. To that extent, we recommend including funding of $7 million to be available to you. And again, this is not saying that we're going to spend any or all of that money. Any expenditures would come before the boards and decisions would be made at that point. But that being said, the responsible thing to do is to have funding in place to be able to go forth and solve the problem that is necessitated for now from having that building no longer available. So that's what the $7 million is about there. And those are the two changes. Again, the entirety of the 2024 plan is found across pages 27 and 28 of your agendas. And there you'll be able to see, 26, 27, and 28. You'll be able to see that including the $9 million that you see on your screen, including that, altogether $14,794,000 is recommended for action in 2024. There will be a unique resolution proposed at your next meeting, so you can take a vote on that. But again, you can take a look at all the 65 items that are encompass all that there.
Thank you. And just to be very, very, very clear, space utilization building E is simply a title for a provision of an allocation that may or may not occur. But it would be financially irresponsible for us not to consider that some amount for space utilization, whether it's 50,000 or 7 million, has to be acknowledged in the plan because we're still going through the process of evaluating it. And so it's still a process. There's absolutely, at this point, no direction or no decision. No specific direction, what I mean. It's still in the process. So, and just to back up and give maybe a 3-minute historical, what has happened with Building E, because I know it's on everybody's mind. Building E, first of all, is the old security building / maintenance building over there behind the equestrian center by Broadband. That's what Building E is. It's 47 years old. It was, I'm going to say, not the best built building, okay, when it was built. And as a result, it deteriorated. Even though it was maintained, it continued to deteriorate. So at some point, that building became inhabitable, even though the subject of its replacement or something came up 4 years ago. It was, and then so it came to a point where we had to get the employees out of there. There could have been serious OSHA violations had we maintained that for the employees. So as a result, and security was over there. So as a result, we had to take immediate action to put security someplace, and they're over in the office building over there. In the meantime, we had to consider what action will we take to either replace the space or make other accommodations. And so we had a space utilization company come in, Austin Company, and say, hey, here's I'm going to call it the Rolls Royce of plans, all right? And so we're still in the process now, not only of evaluating that, but how it fits in with available funds, how it impacts resident services, not the resident services across the hall, but resident amenities, because we've lost space, whether it's space that was formerly used for staff or not, because this building, if you notice, is not just staff, it's a little bit of everything. You got PC, Mac Club upstairs, you've got table tennis upstairs, you've got the gym over there. So when you reduce your space, the space is reduced. So there's been nothing decided. When I say nothing, it's all on the table. Nothing has been decided. But the space utilization gave us a great foundation for understanding what we can do at, quote, best case, and what we can do at worst case. So we're still involved in that process. But it would be irresponsible not to provide as an allocation to be able to say that money is considered both in the reserve calculation and possible expenditures for 2024, 25, and 26. So hope that explains it.
I'd also like you to mention where these funds would come from. They would not increase the per man or per month assessment to any of our residents. This comes from our reserves fund. That's why we have to keep a strong reserve fund, because these things come up all the time. And it's very important that we have these funds in our savings account to be able to handle these things, but they will not affect your per man or per month assessment.
Thank you. That's really important. So again, to reiterate what you just said, the numbers that are in here, including the $9 million that you see on the screen there, all of that in consideration with what we learned from our reserve specialist. Even for the next 5 years, we're anticipating $17 is going to remain constant for those 5 years. And the $7,500 given today's buys and sells in the community, it should be enough to keep us at those rates as well. So that's very important. Thank you, Juanita, for mentioning that. There doesn't appear to be any impact on per man or per month with these items.
And to say, it's something that we actually expect. That's what the reserve is for. We actually expect to have to invest and reinvest in our amenities, and that's what this is about. We still don't have specifics yet.
That's our job.
Yeah. And I wanted to point out that there are no secrets, that the other boards are involved in this process. So you can go to your board and ask them questions too about what's going on with Building E. Thank you.
John Beckett again. I believe Mr. Campos said that there will be a unique resolution at the final budget meeting, and that the corporate members will be allowed to vote up or down on that one item. No?
No, I didn't say anything about corporate members.
This is budget allocation. The corporate members would be involved in a Building E solution, but not the allocation.
Well, somebody said, we're not going to spend any money. We just want to put this in the budget. We're not going to spend it. Once you put this money in the budget, you have authorized staff to spend that money.
No.
Yes,
no.
you have.
You don't understand. You just don't understand.
Yeah. In fact, I mean, just to explain, when we put money in the capital budget, we allocate it. And in some projects, it is not an authorization to staff. It is it is the allocation of money so staff can study it and come up with a much, I'll call it much more exact number, which then has to go through a completely new authorization process within the board. So it is not an authorization.
It's a placeholder,
Yeah.
and then it can be defunded.
Yeah, it's a placeholder that can actually be defunded if necessary. So it's just good financial planning is what it amounts to. It's not. We have
Georgiana
a
Willis,
Azar on the line.
858. I just,
Can we just have Azar? Can you just wait? We have another person in front of you online.
oh, okay, sorry.
Online, yeah.
Thank you. I want to just to repeat what one of the directors says, that this comes allocation as from the reserve fund and is not permanent per month. I want residents knows that the money in reserve fund is not coming from all trees on the Laguna Wood. It comes from the residents, but previously that's why allocated is. If they are using this one, then not this year, maybe next year is going permanent per month. So please understand and don't give to the residents misinformation or turning the information that is not from permanent per month. So it's not affected this year, but is affected in the previous year and in future. So please understand, reserve fund comes from permanent per month allocation that you had it in the past. One of these slide, I couldn't remember the name, it says allocation, and that's why how you got the money. So please give correct information to residents. Thank you.
So if I may, I can try to clarify here.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
just want to make sure that we understand, yes, I'm not suggesting that these programs are free. We talked about at the beginning that the reserve funds are funded from two different sources. One is your $17 per man per month contribution, so that absolutely comes from you. And the other is through the transfer fee. So you've either already paid it or you got in before we had a transfer fee, but that is $7,500. It absolutely does come from the residents. What we're saying is that looking into the future, considering all the expenditures that you're set to make in 2024 and considering expenditures that we're projecting for 25 and into the future years, we believe that at the rate that we're currently going, that will continue to be the case at least for the next 5 years. We believe that $17 per man per month in each of those years is enough to cover where you're at. So yes, we're contributing, but we don't believe that there's going to be any changes in the near term.
Yeah, I'm puzzled by the comment, but anyway, the way the reserve works, it's a savings account. It's a savings account based on estimated future expenditures, and so it has existed since the time we became Laguna Woods, the village. And so what we've done over time is to make sure that from a resident's perspective, we want to see that contribution be as relatively as even as possible throughout the years. So we've projected a 30-year, a 5-year, and a 1-year projection so that if you take the 30 years, there's no change, there's no planned change in the contribution for the reserve. Now that could change, but at the moment, given the expenditures that we see, there's no planned change in that per man per month as a result of the expenditures that we are putting out here now as allocations. So I'm puzzled by, Yes, per man or per month is part of what you save. We save it, but I'm puzzled by the comment that it is not that the next year there's going to be a per man or per month increase, and that's not the way the reserves work. So anyway, so this is an allocation. This is to preserve to understand that within the calculation, authorized, regardless of what the solution is for this building A. This is to say whatever that solution is, it is funded, okay? But it does have to go through a whole series of not only approvals at the direction level, but approvals at the specific levels when whatever the decision is. So this has to go through multiple levels before there's any money committed.
Director Hopkins, we do have a speaker card here for Ms. Penny Carr regarding this.
I have a question. Oh, Penny Carr, 3276, Unit P as in Paul.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question about the, you mentioned the corporation that's done the study for Building E regarding the replacement or whatever. Is that report complete at this point?
Yes, it is. It's a data point in the analysis, and it contains very detailed assumptions as to personnel movement and a whole bunch of things that, to be honest with you, you can't share in an open meeting. It is part of a decision process. It is not the decision process.
Okay, I'm very interested in that report.
Mm-hmm.
Are those online where we can access those?
No.
And may I ask why?
Again, we don't share detailed personnel. I'm sorry?
It's an outside company. You don't want to share?
What the report is a very detailed report. It contains a lot of assumptions that they made in order to give us I'll call it the optimum space utilization for this building. Those assumptions made additional assumptions on personnel movement and a bunch of other things that should not be shared in a community. Because first of all, it's just a data point in a decision-making process. It is not the basis of a decision.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
But in order for us to participate and ask questions at these meetings, it would be helpful for us to be informed about what they're supposing and imagining, and the options and so on.
Well, and I know this won't satisfy those who want to see it, but what it says is, yes, you can fit everybody in here at a cost. That's what it says. And that cost, we need to consider not only that cost, but the other impacts of putting all staff into this building with the staff that were in Building 8. So that's what all it says.
Okay.
Now, the details of it, if you take them out of context and try to apply them to get, quote, the answer, you'll be as frustrated as we are in trying to come up with the answer. And you're not as privileged to a lot of the stuff as we are at the moment.
Well,
So-
even though, the people in attendance and watching are not currently serving on boards, many of us have served on boards before, and we do understand what you were explaining. So it's a matter of your records, correct?
I'm sorry?
The report is a matter of your records. Is that correct?
In fact, I think it was even taken back from us, wasn't it?
It's
I'm
confidential
sorry.
information, and that's what we're trying to say. It's confidential information. This report may not be the basis of decisions as
We
as
understand
what will
that.
be done with Building E. So it is not beneficial to anyone at
We
this point in
understand.
time to review that space study from Austin because it may not even be used in order to come up with some options. It's not going to be used. And so therefore, to have a resident go in and want a copy of it, to break it apart, to make assumptions, when it's not even going to be part of the decision as to what the options are, it's just not for your benefit or the community's benefit, and it has to remain
Well,
confidential.
I don't need
It
any
has
more.
to remain confidential because it involves
Miss,
in the
you're
employees.
taking up my
Okay.
time. I don't
Okay.
need that long of an explanation.
Okay, but I
Basically,
just wanted to make sure.
please let me finish. I am saying that I get that you are saying for rules of confidentiality, we, the owners here, do not have a right to it, that we're going to make assumptions that are simply not true or vague or imagine or pre-conclude, that we can't be trusted to sort through that ourselves. So I'll move on to the next question, but I will be researching that myself. I don't like it. I don't like it a bit.
It
So,
doesn't, it
moving
doesn't.
on, I'm not asking for your comment. Moving on, Clubhouse 1 renovation. I'm hoping, it's a statement, not a question. I'm hoping that from the renovation of Clubhouse 12, where an initial bid was given, I can't even remember, what, 2.5 million or less? And then it parlayed because of unfound mold. Once they opened up the walls, it parlayed into many millions of dollars. I am just just asking and hoping that a lesson was learned here. And it's true that any building that is old is much more likely to have mold in it. So before we accept bids, I would like to make sure that those bids include a sampling of the walls to see if there is mold, and that those bids would cover that. Thank you.
Ellen Leonard, I'd like to talk about Building E. Did we pay for the report, the space utilization report?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Then isn't it just a diagram of the space and how many people and that kind of thing? I think we should be able to have access to that.
Not the details. I mean, I think.
We
You
paid
paid
for
for
it.
it. I told you it's confidential.
We're not going to beat
We
this one to
paid for
death.
it.
But I,
We
but
paid
I,
for
I,
it.
I
Times we can
understand.
say it's
I understand the
But the
curiosity.
fact that you're hiding
believe
it
me,
makes us think there's something in there that we need to see.
I understand the curiosity and the lack of trust, but the answer.
It's the
bottom line
$7
is-
million.
it's-
It's the $7 million.
Yeah, and
That's it.
that's not going to happen. Okay.
Okay. It's not going to happen. for
Not the
space
way it was
or the
projected
$7
in
million.
that report. It's
Okay.
not going to happen.
Okay. The report. There must be
That was,
something you're
again, that's a
hiding.
data point in the analysis.
Okay.
That's a data point in the analysis. That's all it is. It gave us a frame of reference.
Share it. Then share it.
Okay, thank you. And last,
I have nothing further.
Well, we just have Director Ascari. She's had her hand up this
Okay.
entire time.
Director Ascari?
Thank you, Director Hopkins. I have just a little bit puzzled by your comment that I am director and I announced that I have this presentation of the Austin. And it's just a map of a few buildings. I don't know why you are calling it a personal information. There is no name, there is no personal, there is nothing to be hide from residents. If you and wanted to hide it, that's okay, but it looks like nobody can have a map of Laguna Woods. It's just a map. It says this floor has this much, space and this floor has this much space. That's it. I don't understand, and I am puzzled by your comment. And again, misinformation giving to residents, I don't think so is a proper way. And I am more puzzled by the strong sentence that President Carpenter said, which I didn't know as a director. She just announced a few minutes ago, it is not going to be used, that Austin report. I didn't know that we are not going to use after paying money for that. If you already decided or President Carpenter decided not going to be used, okay, so at least let the residents knows about that. Again, transparency is the best way that you can build trust from residents. Thank you.
Okay.
Comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
We're just trying to say that there's no decisions that has been made yet. And so we have this panel of representatives from all the different boards, including Mutual 50. And we want to meet and we want to go over ideas. And then when we can go over some of these ideas and develop a plan and understand what the cost is, of a master plan, then we would bring that to the community. So it's really tough on us right now because you're asking for questions that we don't have an answer for because there are no answers yet. It's in the process, the idea, trying to get an idea, trying to meet the needs of the entire community. And so I just ask that you appreciate that. Thank you.
Anyone? Is this the last comment? Okay.
Okay, I want to follow up on Building E. I understand that President Carpenter mentioned that this is just an idea, okay? Can we chip in with the idea, our idea, or do you only count your idea at this point? Can you share your idea with us? Which one of the report you don't think is valid? And let us know. Open it up. Share with us. Now, the question is, we have no clue. We don't know whether we should trust you or not. You are a trust. Okay? Open it up, please. Okay? It needs to be shared with. I pay for it. We pay for it. We have the right to deserve to know what's going on there. Okay? What you're saying is, you pay for it, but we make decision whether you deserve to know or not. That's not trust. You got it totally wrong. Okay? So please share that report with us and let us know why you are hiding it from us. Next question.
So, Andre,
Next
I don't
question.
appreciate your comments, and I really have, I've been keeping my mouth shut this whole time, but as president of GRF, we are completely trusted. You have wonderful board members on here that have a lot of experience, and we take in consideration everything that the community needs are. We love this village. That's why we're here. We love this village. We want to make it better. And as far as you accusing us of being untrustworthy, and staff being untrustworthy, I just don't appreciate it. But if you have an issue, if you have a question, we are welcome to answer it. But please don't stop your accusations. Please do stop your accusations.
And we don't have a trust when we paid and we are not informed. Please remember that. We need to be informed. We need to know how you make decisions. Is there anything behind the scene that's happening? We don't know. If you share the information with us, then we will know. But you refuse to share that information. And you even said it will never be shared, it will be never considered. Okay.
We said that we're not ready to.
No, you said you will not use it.
Okay, would you please sit down?
Yeah, no, let him finish.
Right, you have about 90 seconds.
Let him finish his
Another
comments.
thing I want to talk about is this $9 million. Page 25. Okay, let's all look at page 25. This year we have starting reserve, $35 million. And at the end, it's $22 million. Starting next year. Okay? The end is $22 million, $23 million. If we take $9 million out of it, it will be $14 million. And our reserve gets down to 28%. Okay? What are
First,
you going to do with
let me
28%?
stop you. Let me stop you because your calculation, your
28%.
your calculation is off, sir. So before
And
you
let me finish my sentence, and you can
before you
respond.
start with that premise, if you start off with a false premise, you're going to end up with a bad answer. So let me stop you right there.
Okay.
And so that $22 million ending balance includes the $9 million.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Just
I'm
to
glad
make
to hear
sure
that.
everybody's on the same page.
I'm glad to hear that.
That is the reason we said we would like to allocate it so that it can be included in the reserve calculation 1 year, 5 years, 30 years.
So
Right?
what you're saying
so
is
your
in the
premise
next
is off.
25 years, we should not have any reserve, extra charge.
That's the projection.
Okay, and if there's anything, were you able to stand up and say, we made the wrong decision and we will take responsible of that?
If I had a crystal ball, I sure could make that 30 years out. I certainly could make that promise.
Look at a drop of $35 million to $22 million.
All we can do is strategically plan.
And also, at this point, you guys said we have no idea at this point of what's going on. And we have already allocated $7 million on there already. Okay, why don't you just put it in there and say, we're talking about it? Okay, why do you start allocating? And I see that the GRF board has a tendency to say, we think this will go to this. Let's put the money aside already. Okay, and then they said, you disagree with that? Let's have another meeting. Let's have another meeting. We'll talk about this one. The board already denied your money. And you said, let's have another meeting. Please, you work for the association. Your loyalty is to the association, not to VMS. Okay? You don't have to
Andre,
do everything VMS
I
wants.
asked you to ask questions and stop accusing.
That's okay. Okay. Any more comments?
I have one question, Ellen Leonard, and I wanted to know why we can't get a copy of the diagram or the map that Austin Search prepared for the building need.
It's, what is it, about 11 by 17 pages of detailed drawings, engineering drawings, I mean, it's...
Maybe there's somebody
and
that can-
it makes assumptions on certain movement of staff.
You don't trust us.
No, we don't. The answer is no. Okay, not to make it confident. Do we trust you? But not to have confidential information.
Is the intention
Because
to move fitness and other
we don't
facilities?
We don't know.
Oh.
That's the point.
Okay.
That's just a plan that a consultant showed us that says, if you want to fit everybody in here, this is how to do it. Here's what it cost, and here are the benefits, or here are the results of it. Okay, it affects this and this and this and this and that. So that's all it states. Now we've got to take the results of that and determine whether or not we want to do something of that nature or not. It's not the end all. It is not the report that says this is the direction we will follow. So all it is a data point in the decision-making process. And so when we get close to that decision-making process, there'll be alternatives to a lot of things. And that's when I think, to be honest with you, this is just me talking, I think just as we went to the community with the bus system, I think we're going to be going to the community with proposed solutions once the other boards are in pretty much agreement with.
Davis Sterling 5200 states that you need to share the reports with the community.
No, they're talking about the basic financial reports, et cetera. They're not talking about development reports.
Okay, the current building, the security building there, OSHA gave us a violation.
Didn't say that.
You said something about OSHA.
I know, but I didn't say that. What I said was that I said there were potential OSHA violations, significant OSHA violations, had we continued. Had we continued to put people there.
Can we please not have comments from the audience? Thank you.
And that's a judgment that our legal counsel as well as our staff made. And, they're pretty senior staff. They understand, they're not novices on running a business. And I know we get very familiar with them because we know them by name and we can walk, knock on their door and walk in their offices. But these are folks that run essentially a $200 million corporation. So when we say we don't trust them, and this is a community, this is not a 100 unit community. This is huge.
Yes.
So I just want us to appreciate what they do and what this board does and all the boards do. Okay? It is not significant, some of the things we have to consider as we invest and reinvest in what this community is all about. Mm-hmm. It's, and we don't, when it comes to big items, we want the community involved. But let us do our homework first before we get everybody involved in all the details.
I hope we manage the community and they get our direction. That's what I'm hoping.
No, they implement, but they also have to manage day to day. That's not, we direct.
No, you say you don't direct.
Okay. We give them the direction, the general direction we want to go in, but they manage it day to day. They're the frontline troops, if you will. Okay? And any general or director is going to trust and treat the frontline troops with some respect.
Thank you, Mr. Hopkins.
Are we?
I just want to say, as a former board member, an HOA in Florida for 7 years, what you're going through this morning is unacceptable and bothers me. We had confidential meetings where the residents were not allowed and were not shared the information. And I think what you guys are doing is a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aaron Willis again, still hasn't changed. Anyway, I just have a comment again about Building E. Referring back to Ms. Carr's statement about the other building, I think she was referring to Clubhouse 2 years ago, which probably could have been built for under $200,000. And I remember right after I moved here, I read that we were having a $5.5 million renovation on it. And then I think after they spent that money, which I was shocked to see because there was no way that it should cost that. And so then, but then supposedly after the renovation was completed, there was another $2.5 million that was needed because they found mold. Well, if I were a contractor doing a renovation of any type, the first thing I would look for before I did any work would have been mold. So I have problems with that before we get to this. And so I think this is a senior community. It's not a country club. And so I don't see a need to spend $7 million on a building for staff when we can buy a temporary building and put it on land that we already have in an out-of-the-way place that would, be convenient for parking and everything. And we can do it for $20,000 or $40,000 for the temporary buildings. And you find that's laughable, but the police departments do it, the schools do it, and but somehow we need to have our employees in more of a luxury building. You'd rather spend our money that way because it is our money.
I just want to make a little comment. I've been on the boards almost 8 years, between Third and GRF. And what's really hard for the residents to understand is that when we do our due diligence, that we look at all those options. And I have to tell you, the last time when we looked at the option and we got some bids, having a temporary building, having trailers, having all of that cost more than a stick building. We actually went out to bid, got the information from the construction people, and found out, we were shocked. But what we do is we do our due diligence. We look at all the options. And if there's a possibility that you could put in a different type of structure in there that would be acceptable for less money, we would definitely consider it. But I just have to repeat again, when we do our due diligence, we look at everything.
Okay, but so far, I'd like to see a deal for a change.
Okay.
All right, and that is everything that we have prepared. I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for hearing us out. I also want to thank our staff. This was a very collaborative process. Not only did we go back and forth with the boards, but between the different departments. So a big thank you to all of our staff. And of course, I'm partial to our finance staff, but I know that they're watching, and I want to say thank you to Aida Montesinos and to Blake LaFont and to Randall Dameron, who did the majority of this work here. So a big thank you to them.
Yeah. And just let me take the opportunity to thank the financial staff and everybody for all of their contributions thus far. I know it's been really tough with not only all the changes, but we've had some two big guys being absent because of medical issues. So I just think that one of the reasons, I've had people say to me, well, why do you quote defend VMS? I don't have to defend VMS. They do a great job. Do we agree with everything they do? No. We need to help them help us, as opposed to try to tear them down and not trust them. But I want to thank specifically the financial staff, because I know what they do, how they do, and how hard they work. Not only that, they are the front runners, and they were up first in the initial phase of the ERP. So doing all of this financial planning and back and forth and everything else, they also had to act with the ERP development to test and try out the new ERP as it relates to finance planning and some other things. So it is not just what you see, the results of these presentations. There's a lot that goes on underneath. This is just the tip of the iceberg that we see. So I want to thank them again, and again, and I mean it sincerely, and on behalf of our board, because of fantastic work that they do. So with that, does any board member have a comment?
I just want to thank the staff and a member of our community for the really good input and advice and comments, because we need all of those to understand how you feel about everything that we're doing for this community. We want to make sure that we do the right thing for all of us. We are just like you. We are a member of this community. We pay our dues at the same time. But your valuable comment is important. I'm surprised that this room wasn't filled with the members of the community. This is our budget for 2024. I would appreciate if there was 200 people here and they give us more comments. But for those of you who came in and took time out of your busy time and came in and told us about your concern, we appreciate that, and we hope that you stay involved with our community so we can do a better job for you, all of us. Thank you.
Oh, I see Gan has his hand up. Gan?
Yeah, I have a comment. Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Gan. Go ahead.
Hello?
Go ahead, Gan.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear us?
Yes, Gan.
Can you hear us now?
Go ahead.
Well, I was thinking about it. I was hearing very carefully. And it is very unfortunate, or how to say that. Unfortunately, I find that there is a lack of trust this sense of secrecy and as if we are hiding some certain things. But in my association with GRF, I have not found that we are hiding or trying to hide something. What I find that, for example, this building E, we have gone through all the possible due diligence that we can do. At that time, the lady said certain things, the modular building or certain cheaper alternatives. We have gone through that. I would request and I would hope that our residents get involved when you are going through these particular things, not at the only last time when you are doing this budgeting process. The budgeting process is the process that comes to the point after we consider all the alternatives and all how we are going to spend, how we are going to attend all the problems that we have in this area. So I do not know how to say that, but my feeling is that we are lacking in keeping our residents, our members, involved. And I do not know what we can do. We can have different ways to inform them. And I would request that the members to get involved at the right time so that we do not go and discuss one thing again and again and again, although we have done our due diligence. So this will be a wastage of time. But I would like to see how we can improve our lines of communication and how VMS can have certain ways to communicate with the residents what is going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Any board member comments anymore? Juanita?
I'm sorry, I have to say, this is not just a large, we are a huge community. And I go back to what Reza said. Look how few people want to be involved or even know about the budget. We don't know how many are watching it on television at home. We hope quite a few. But when speakers get up and say, we are part of that we, and we're not there, and all of the people who aren't here aren't there. Most of the people that I talk to on a daily basis do trust GRF. This is why we're elected, all of your boards, to do this, because we can't have 18,000 people in a room trying to make a decision. The trust is there, and I think the fact that there are so few people in this room, so few people sending questions in by there, means that they trust what their board does.
Okay, Bunny?
I just want to invite everybody out to our town hall. GRF is going to start having town halls, and our first one is going to be August 22nd. It'll be at Clubhouse 2 from 3 to 5. We want everybody to come, and we invite your questions. The officers will be there, but Yvonne's going to be there because one of the officers is not going to be there, and she will be there as CAC chair. So please come. We want to see all your questions, or we want to hear all your questions. That's all I have to say. What was the time again? 3 to 5. Pardon?
I think, what was the time?
The time is 3 to 5. 3 to 5.
Good. Okay. Again, thank you all for attending, and the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you much.